Now we're going to talk about gravity, and you can't talk about gravity without talking about Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton is the father of modern classical mechanics, or classical physics. He did a lot of work on what we call classical mechanics. He did a lot of work on optics. If you have a telescope, you may have a Newtonian telescope. He invented a new type of telescope so he could watch the planets better. And what he thought was his biggest accomplishment in his whole life, though, was he invented the ridges on the edges of coins. Why is that an enormous accomplishment? Well, you got to remember, in his day, he was exchequer for the crown, right? Exchequer meant he was in charge of the treasury. And so in his day, money was made out of real precious metals. So a pound sterling was sterling silver. There were people that would take gold coins and they'd take silver coins, and you just shave a very little bit of gold off the edge of the coin and take that gold and melt it down and do this to a bunch of coins, and you'd have a bunch of gold that you'd gotten off of these coins. The problem with that is the value of the coin was supposed to be represented by the gold that made it up. And so when you did this, you were in fact stealing from the treasury. You were stealing from the British crown. And as exchequer, Isaac Newton invented those little ridges around the edge. So what does that do? Now you can't shave off the edge because people will know. He saved the crown lots and lots and lots of money, right? A lot of money he saved them. You know, there were plenty of reasons to give him a knighthood based on his intellectual work, but his job as exchequer, you know, that kind of was a part of it. I mean, you gotta recognize that, right? Another physicist at the time that I really love, I've seen a play on her life, Gabrielle Amélie Letelier de Breteuil, Marquise de Chatelet. She was a genius in a way that it's hard to really get across. Women were not allowed to go to school, to university. She was an extremely bright woman, and she simply stood out in the hall and listened to the lectures. She took Newton's Principia, which he wrote, his big treatise on physics and calculus. He invented calculus, by the way, not just modern physics, but not just classical physics, but he invented calculus as well. She took his Principia and she translated it into French. And he actually had some errors in the optics bit, and so she fixed his errors in optics. And just an unbelievably brilliant person. Unfortunately, at the time she lived, she was a woman, you know, and was ignored because she was a woman. In fact, no one knew that she had translated the Principia until 10 years after her death. And then her heirs find her translation in her basically her makeup stand, right, where she'd stuck it.